What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hood Soft Life podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina, and in this podcast, we talk about navigating the challenges that come with growing up in the hood and leaving those challenges behind for a soft life. Growing up in the hood has its own set of challenges, but what people don't tend to tell you is not only do those challenges follow you once you've made it out physically, but they tend to intensify. So, I'm bringing you along on my journey. I'm going to be honest about the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning to achieve a soft life. In this episode, we're going to be talking about real self-care. And I just have to put the emphasis on that because I feel like when we first started learning about self-care and when self-care started getting more popular, we were seeing a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily real self-care. And we'll get into that in this episode. So let's get started. All right, y'all. So I just want to start off with a quick little update about where I'm at in life as I continue to share my journey with you throughout this podcast. In last week's episode, I talked about feeling stuck and some of the things that I was doing to get unstuck and to help myself through this process and push myself through in a way that was healthiest for me. And so I talked about feeling like I was stuck, not making any progress towards my goals, feeling like I wasn't getting to where I wanted to be in life, and kind of feeling burnt out and tired. Like I felt burnout coming and creeping up for me and stuff like that. And so I talked about that a little bit. So an update from where I am compared to last week. I am still on that journey. I'm not going to lie to you and be like, oh, everything is so much better now. Like I've got myself through it. No, it's going to be a season. It's going to be a process and I'm okay with that. And so I'm still at that point in my life where I feel like I'm not making any progress towards my goals. I don't really see anything coming to fruition, and that's okay because I just started this podcast. I just started a new little season in my life, and so I'm not seeing anything yet because I just started. You know, like when you start going to the gym and after like 2 days ago, you'd be looking at yourself like, and pretending like you see these changes, but in reality, like they're not there. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now, and that's okay. I can acknowledge that. So I'm understanding that like I've just made these changes into my life that are important to me, and it's going to take some time for me to get to where I want to be, and I'm okay with that, and I'm not rushing the process in any way, shape, or form, and I understand that I'm in a season of struggle, but I'm not making it feel as heavy as I have in previous seasons, which I'm grateful for. And so something else I quickly wanted to talk about in regards to that is just feeling like I need to take more care of myself, which is why we're talking about this in today's episode. So right now it is February break by the time that you're watching this. So I work in the education system and we have a February break. So we get a week off. I also took a week off from my second job just to really give myself a time to relax and just do nothing. If that's what I want to do, I'm always on the go. I'm always working. I'm always doing something. I'm working on this podcast. I'm working on things behind the scenes. I'm working on myself a lot. Self-development is very important to me, but that's also working in some way, shape, or form. And so I just wanted to have the opportunity to do nothing if my heart desires it. So right now I'm on February vacation. I'm not working, and it was perfect timing because I wasn't really feeling well right before the break. And so by the time you're seeing this, I'm going to be just doing absolutely nothing, and this will be uploaded a little later because I just want to take some time to rest. What else is really going on? I'm trying to see if I wrote anything in my notes that was significant about what is going on. Oh, I have just started the process of looking for a new place. I currently have a roommate where I live and I'm ready to move out. And so I'm just trying to figure out like where do I want to go? What do I want to do? I'm trying to figure out what do I want to do in my career next because I'm really not happy working in the education system. And so I'm trying to figure out like what's going to be the best thing for me. How do I combine my passions and my, not desires, but like how do I combine my passions, my desires, I guess, and the things that I'm good at into a job that I'll be interested in. I don't want to get a job for the sake of like I needed to pay my bills. I want a job that I can enjoy. I want to start working in my career, working in my goals. So I've been looking into some jobs and applying to a couple that I feel like I really fit and that really make me happy, will make me feel fulfilled, etc. And the last thing I would say that is going on in my life right now is I'm really just trying to understand and flow with the process of this podcast. I love doing this. Sometimes it is a little bit challenging because I do struggle with imposter syndrome. And sometimes I wonder if it's helping people or not. But I still do it anyways because it allows me to be creative. It's something that's just an outlet for me. And I'm starting to put into place the things that I want to help it to grow, if that makes sense. So like there's some things that I'm working on behind the scenes that I'm hoping to release within the next week. And then eventually I want this to be more than just me coming on. I do want to have conversations with friends and with guests and things like that. So just saving up the money to be able to buy the equipment that I want to create the type of content that I'm looking forward to creating. So that's just an update about where I'm at in my life. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the rest of the meat and potatoes of this conversation. And so what I'm going to start off with is defining what self-care is. And of course, you know what? Let me just say this. I always say that I was born in the wrong time. I was born in the wrong era. I feel like I'm too mature for my age. But when it comes to access to the internet and being able to have knowledge at your fingertips, baby, I'm in love. I'm in love with this. That's probably like the one thing about being 20 in this time that I enjoy. Everything else, I just feel like, oh, I should be like 45 by now. But whatever. Anyways, so I went online to look up what is self-care exactly. I feel like when we talk about it, we have an idea of what that is. And obviously, it's pretty straightforward in the name. You're taking care of yourself. But I wanted to just see like how would like a professional define what self-care is. So I went on to the National Institute of Mental Health. They have their own website and they talked more about what self-care is and the importance of self-care and mental health and just why it's important for your overall well-being. I'm sorry if you hear that noise in the background. That's my dryer. I think I'm going to just take a quick moment to go and turn it off actually because all of a sudden it's super loud. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Brief intermission. Anyways, so I went to the National Institute of Mental Health, their website, to figure out how they would define self-care. And I like how they opened up the page. They started off by saying, like, mental health and self-care is important regardless of whether or not you struggle with a mental health issue or a mental health disability, however you choose to define it. And I thought that was really important because I feel like we don't take the time to really address the importance of our mental health until we have a problem. We're not really a country that works on like preventative care, or it's more like reactive or responsive care. And so like essentially we're not treating the problem until the problem is big. Even though we know that if we do these things, it'll lead to a problem. Instead of just avoiding those things to avoid the problem, we kind of just like, when we get to the problem, then we'll fix it. And so I like that they talked about that, but essentially how they define self-care is self-care means taking the time to do the things that help you live well and improve your body, your physical health, and your mental health. This can help you manage stress, lower your risk of illness, and increase your energy. Even small acts of self-care in your daily life can help have a big impact. And then they gave some examples of what self-care would look like. So here are some of the top ones that they have. And I'm sorry if I sound a little weird. I am kind of sick at the moment, so just bear with me. And your girl has asthma, so you might hear me breathing a lot on the mic. But anyways, some examples of self-care that they have, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, is exercise, eating well, staying hydrated, and making sure that you're eating regular meals. Listen here, there will be some days where I eat one meal throughout the whole day and pretend like, not pretend, but I don't feel hungry. I'm like, and forget that, like, I'm a human being. I should eat more than once a day. Not like force feed myself, but, just making sure that I'm getting all the nutrients and the vitamins that I need. Number 3 is getting proper sleep. 4 is relaxing activities, whether that's reading, listening to music, spending time in nature, painting, etc. Painting is actually super therapeutic. I'm not really one who's here for the arts and crafts. And I only really paint when I hang out with my friend Kaylin. She's really big on that. But I actually like it. It is calming. And it does take me a little bit out of the perfectionism because I know I'm not like the best at it. So I like it. Number 5 is setting goals and priorities. Number 6, practicing gratitude, practicing positivity, and staying connected with loved ones. So those are some of the things that they highlight for examples of self-care that are important. So let me know in the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube. You can send me a DM on Instagram or on TikTok, whatever is easiest for you. Are you doing any of these things for self-care? Are there any of these things that you thought were like, they weren't even things that you thought of? Like, of course, like spending time with loved ones sounds like obvious, but it's like maybe you don't have good relationships with like family or whatever the case may be. What are your thoughts on some of the examples of self-care that they provided? I want to go ahead and move into self-care in the social media aspect versus like real self-care. Again, this is just from my perspective. Like, if you think that you've seen something different, like, please let me know, because I'm interested to learn more. But from my perspective, like, self-care and social media versus self-care, like real self-care, are two different things. I feel like when we first started hearing about self-care, maybe like somewhere between like 3-5 years ago ish, maybe, it was like you were always hearing about like luxury cars, luxury high rises, getting your hair, your nails, your makeup done if you're a woman, going out on vacations and stuff like that. I didn't really see a lot of stuff for men, and maybe that's because I'm not looking for it because I'm not a man. Maybe it's just I didn't see it because like we're really not pushing self-care for men. I don't know what the deal with that is. Like, I just didn't really see a lot of that when I was doing my research, or just when I would be scrolling in general, and when self-care was like on. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I don't know if that's because I wasn't looking for self-care for men, or if it's because like we as a society are not pushing self-care for men. I don't know what the deal was with that. I just thought that was interesting while I was getting ready for this episode. But yeah, I feel like social media had painted this unrealistic expectation of what self care is supposed to look like. And if you don't have money like that, you don't have access to self care like that. Like, not everybody can afford to live in a high rise, go on vacation all the time, have luxury items, get their hair and their nails done all the time, etc. And so, real self care is addressing your traumas, healing your inner child, taking care of your body and your overall health and wellness, etc. And so I feel like over the last like year, two, maybe, is when I feel like self-care strayed away from like, get your hair done, get your nails done, sorry, get your makeup done, dress up all the time, go on vacation, da 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 da. It kind of moved away from that and more towards like the, baby girl, this is not working. This is not working. I got my hair and my nails done every week and I'm still struggling. I still don't feel healthy. I still don't feel happy. I still don't feel fulfilled. I feel drained. I just look good. And so I feel like we've started swaying away from like the physical aspects of self-care and more into like the overall aspects of healthcare, of self-care, excuse me. I feel like health and wellness has started becoming a lot more popular. There are a lot more gym and health influencers out there now. There's a lot more awareness of like how beneficial going to the gym is for your body, how beneficial and important it is for you to take care of yourself. And it's like, yes, we know these things. Yes, we know like we're supposed to eat well, we're supposed to work out and this, that, and the third, but we're still not doing those things. And I'm not shading anybody that's listening to this. Like, listen here, I'm trying to push myself into doing things that are supposed to be good for me because I'm so used to not doing this. I'm so used to, I'm just gonna, go about my daily business and then get to myself later on. You know what I mean? And so I feel like now that we're making that change of like, okay, we need to start putting more things in place to take care of ourselves, be more healthy, etc. I feel like there's this huge change and this huge shift in the way that social media has started portraying self-care. They're leaning towards that real self-care. Don't get me wrong. Are there still people out there that are promoting the vacations and the high rises and the robes and the face masks and blah blah blah? Yes. And don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't want those things. I do want those things. I do want to go on vacation. I do want to have my hair and my nails done and da 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 whenever I feel like it. But I want that on top of addressing my mental health issues, on top of addressing my traumas. Everybody has trauma. Everybody has something going on with their mental health. You're lying if you say that you're not. I'm not trying to shade you. I'm not trying to come for you. Everybody has something going on. Living life is a challenging thing. Listen, you get on social media, everybody's making jokes about it, but it's real. And that's why everybody's laughing, because they know it's relatable. And it's just like, make sure you're taking the time to address those things. Like, yeah, it's cool to a kiki joke here and there, but it's like also address that. We kind of try to laugh it off and pretend like it's not that big a deal. that builds up at some point, and at some point you're gonna have to address it before it addresses you. So you kind of want to figure out like who's going to jump the gun first. You are the problem. Oh, you know what? Something else I started seeing more of now is like people talking about setting boundaries. Boundaries at work, boundaries with friends and loved ones, boundaries in relationships, etc. And I'm here for it 110%. I am somebody who struggles with boundaries in certain aspects of my life. And I think that that's really an underestimated part of self-care. Like when you don't have boundaries with relationships, or when you don't have boundaries like at your job or whatever the case may be, you start feeling like people are walking all over you. Start feeling like certain situations are taking more energy out of you because you don't have that boundary set. You don't have that line of like don't talk to me about work after 5 p.m. And so you're feeling drained. You're feeling like you're working all the time. If you don't have a work boundary, you're feeling like people are taking advantage of your kindness, if they're always coming to you, if they're always asking you for things, whatever the case may be, because you don't set a boundary. And so setting boundaries is super important part of self-care that you can do for free, because when you don't have those boundaries, it's just like you're pretty much saying like you have all access to me whenever you feel like it, however you feel like it, and in the way that's best for you. And then everybody will, at first, like when like when they bring donuts to school and everybody kind of sitting there looking at the donut box like, I know I want one. Like, I'm just waiting for the first person to go. And once the first person goes, right, the first person crosses the boundary, now everybody feels like, okay, it's open season. Now everybody else starts going to the donut box, right? Everybody else starts crossing the boundary. And now it's like, you can't just pull the donut box away. Like, at this point, like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? So think of it like that. Like, when you don't set boundaries for yourself and you have a circle of people around you, and that one person crosses the boundary and you don't say anything, you don't address it, you have now set the tone for other people, other relationships, other people at your job, whatever the case may be, to cross the boundary because you did not set it. You did not let them know, like, you cannot step over this line. So that's something that I started seeing a lot more of, and I started seeing a lot more journaling over the last 6 to 8 months. Again, this is from my perspective. I'm like on and off-ish of social media here and there. Journaling is something I've been doing for a long time. That's the most therapeutic thing for me, especially when I was younger and I couldn't afford to go to therapy. That was my thing. But I like that I'm starting to see more of that openly and honestly, and people are talking about it. And it's not just like get your hair, your nails, your makeup done, and all your problems will go away. It's not going to go away. You're going to look fly, but you're still going to have problems. Like, you're going to look good on the outside, but feel rotten, for lack of a better word, on the inside. Like when you buy an avocado and it look good on the outside, but then you cut it, you're like, ugh, I don't like avocado. But you know what? That was the example that I felt like giving. So those are just some of the things that I started noticing more on like social media that I feel like we're kind of like going away from, like the vacations and the hair mask and the blah blah blah, the bubble baths, and we're starting to lean more into like, girl, when they gonna start addressing those childhood traumas, because they have you in the chokehold. And I'm more appreciative of that because I like to talk about those things. And I feel like people look at me crazy like, girl, why are you asking what my childhood traumas are? We just met like 30 minutes ago. Because I need to know how you're going to operate in this friendship. If I don't ask that, I'm not really gonna know until like I see you operate. And even then, like, when you ask those types of questions, there's just certain things you cannot hide. Maybe I'm ODing it, whatever. That's just my flow. That's my way of things. But I like that we're starting to move away from the superficial stuff to a certain degree or to a certain extent. And we're starting to get to the real meat and potatoes of this. I seen this girl on YouTube, and she was Bria Jones, and she was talking about how we're the guinea pigs of all this shit that's going on. We're the guinea pigs of like social media. We're the guinea pigs when it comes to like AI, and like we're going through this economic recession right now. We're going through all of these different things. Some of these things is history repeated, but a lot of it is not. And so it's like, of course, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to respond because we're the guinea pigs. We're the trial run. We're the test dummies. And so she was like, of course, we're starting to figure out why so many people are struggling with anxiety. And is it linked to social media? I don't know. Probably, because they didn't have this before. We're the guinea pigs for it now. And now that we see having so much accessibility to it, is kind of being linked to anxiety, like what else is it linked to? You know what I mean? So I just thought it was interesting that she had brought that up. It's like we are like the test dummies of what's going on where we live at. We don't know like how AI is going to affect us in the future. We don't know how social media is affecting us on the inside beyond just like anxiety, beyond comparison, beyond imposter syndrome. There could be other effects to it that we have no idea about until like 5-10 years down the line. Same thing with COVID. We didn't know what the effects of COVID were going to be when shutdown started. But now that we're back, and as somebody who works in education, you can see the deficits of the students because we missed a year or two of school, in-person school, right? We have parents at home trying to teach their kids. Not everybody has a parent that can teach them the material. And so now we have kids at so many different levels, drastically decreasing levels after having been away in COVID because we didn't know. We didn't know what that was going to look like. And so we kind of proceeded with education as normal, as if we didn't just go through this entire global pandemic that fucked us over tremendously. So, anyways, all of that to say, we're the test dummies of our societies, and we got to be careful with what we're allowing ourselves to be test dummies for. There are certain things that you can't set a boundary for within this society, but there are a lot of things that you can set those boundaries. Figure out what you're going to do, what you're going to allow, and what you're not going to allow. Because when you don't set that boundary, when you say like, I'm not going to allow that, you kind of be like, whatever, do what you want to do. And people will do what they want to do with you. So moving on. I'm going to be talking a little bit about self-care in the hood because let's keep it real. Forget it. Scratch that. Self-care is not being practiced. It's not being preached in the hood at all. At least not where I'm from. At least not from what I have seen. It's not being practiced. It's not being preached. And I understand why. Now that I get older and now that I'm starting to understand what mental health is, what self-care is, what emotional intelligence is, as I'm starting to learn more about how to have a better life, how to have a more fruitful life, a healthier life, all of that jazz, I understand why it's not being practiced and preached in the hood, and that's because people in the hood are living in survival mode. I'm grateful enough to say that I don't live physically in the hood anymore. Mentally, I'm still there. I am still there. But physically, I don't live in the hood anymore. But people who live in the hood are living in survival mode. Most people who live in the hood are trying to figure out how the hell they're going to get out of there. And so they're so hyper focused on like, okay, I want to get out of here. I want to have a better life. I want to have a nicer home. I want to have the dream life that I want to have, whatever that means for them, whatever that looks like for them. And so when they start getting locked in and they start getting hyper focused on that, the bottom of your priority list is, let me go eat a salad for lunch. I'm going to go get whatever I can eat right now so I can go scarf it down in all 5 to 10 minutes before I have to get back to work, before I have to get back to school, before I have to get back to whatever it is that is going to help me get out of here. And the assumption is that once I get out of here, then I can start working on my problems. Once I get out of here and once I start making the money that I want to make, then I can start addressing the problems because I'll have the money to address the problems. I'll have the time to address the problems, whatever. And I completely understand that. But my only thing is just like, you have to figure out how you're going to make the time right now. Right now. Again, I don't live in the hood physically anymore, but I still live there mentally in that state of mind for sure. And so it's just like, I'm always hustling. I'm always grinding. I'm always trying to do better, be better, see better, etc. And so I always find a way to put myself back at the bottom of the totem pole. Last year, for those of you who don't know me, who've never really seen my social media, stuff like that, I really try to I have a love-hate relationship with social media. But anyways, last year in 2022-ish, 2023, I was very, very active in the gym and I was posting a lot of TikTok videos. I was going to the gym at 4 a.m, and that was me making sure that I put myself as top priority before I did anything else, before I went to work, before I pursued somebody else's goals and dreams, benefited somebody else's business. I put myself first. And I was working 2 jobs at that time as well. And I was so tired. I was working 2 jobs. I was trying to figure out what my next move was. I had just moved into this apartment that I was living in, and all these other, that I'm living in right now, and all this other stuff. And so I had so many. I'm always having these moving pieces because I'm really just trying to get to my end goal, and I'm trying to figure out how do I get there. Not necessarily quickly, but just making sure that I do get there. And so I was getting exhausted. I was getting a little burnt out with just like always having these moving pieces and stuff, and feeling like I'm always working. I love doing this podcast, but this podcast is work to me. It is also a hobby, but it is also work because at some point this will be the business that provides me the money that I'm looking to have to be able to grow and expand and not only be beneficial for me financially, but for me to be beneficial to others financially as well. And so I stopped going to the gym. I stopped posting my gym workout videos. It all just stopped. And I remember people were asking me, like, what happened to the videos? Like, what happened? Are you still going to the gym? And I wasn't. I had put myself back at the bottom of the totem pole because I just got so tired. I was so used to working all the time, grinding all the time, trying to figure out how do I get to where I want to be, that I put myself at the bottom. And so I will say stripping the gym away from my schedule really affected my mental health as well, because now I'm not doing the thing that was pouring into me, that was clearing my head, that was taking away the anxiety for the day. And I experienced a lot of panic attacks within that year because I stopped going to the gym, and I stopped putting myself as a priority. And then I saw the effects of that, right? I started realizing that like I have to go to the gym, not just because of the physical health part of it, but also like it really does make a huge impact on my mental health as somebody who struggles with anxiety and some other things. If I don't go, I will see a huge difference in my mental health in not that much time. So anyways, I say all that to say, when we're so used to hustling and grinding and figuring out how the hell we're going to get out of being in the hood and how we're going to get to where we want to be, it is so easy to put yourself at the bottom of the totem pole and assume that you will have the time to do it later. But in all seriousness, we don't know what is going to happen to us. Nobody expected COVID to be a thing. None of that stuff. Like, we don't know. We don't know if we're going to have the time to be able to take care of ourselves later on. And also, like, when we don't take that time to take care of ourselves, relax, rest, take good care of ourselves, we're doing more harm than good. We're doing more harm to our bodies, our mental health, etc. And so we're putting more stress on ourselves. And stress is a real killer. Stress will do something to you, okay? And so we're doing all these things, causing more harm than good, assuming that we're going to have time later on. Little do we know we're shaving time off of our lives because we're so stressed out all the time, instead of just taking a couple of minutes to just lay down, do nothing, think of nothing, whatever the case may be. However you want to implement self-care, whatever is the best way for you. If we don't do that, we're just shaving time off of our lives. We're shaving life away because we're putting our bodies, our minds, and our emotions under so much all the time. And when we don't give it a break, at some point it's going to be like, all right, bitch, I told you we needed a break. You didn't want to give me a break, so now I'm going to force you to give me a break. And oftentimes when your body forces you to take that break, it's way longer than you would have liked it to be, but you need it at this point. Like, your body's been begging for it. So overall, moral of the point is, like, take the break before the break takes you. And when the break takes you, my gosh, you don't even know how long it's going to be before you can come back. And I know I'm laughing, but it's just like, in all seriousness, like, when you get to that point where your body is forcing you to take the break, it's serious. It is really serious. And the other thing I wanted to say is, like, I know what I'm saying is so much easier said than done. I know how difficult it is to take a break. I went on my first vacation last summer of 2023, to the Bahamas, and the first like 3 or 4 days, I didn't have access to the internet or any of that stuff. I didn't have access to my phone, and I didn't mind not having access to my phone. That was fine, but it was more so like, I don't have access to the internet, so how am I going to be looking for a job? How am I going to start putting like systems in place to build my podcast? I was just thinking of all the things that I could be working on. And so like the first 3 days, it was very hard to enjoy. It was a 7-day cruise. The first 3 days was very hard to enjoy any of it because it was just like, I could be working right now. And yes, I'm on a ship. And yes, I get to see these beautiful places. I get to see the beautiful water and stuff like that. But it's just like, I need to work. And so after like the 4th day, I started like feeling more relaxed, and I started enjoying the vacation a little bit more. It did rain a lot, but I was able to enjoy my vacation as much as possible despite the rain. But here's the other thing I want to say. Um, take those trips. Take those trips, go on vacations, go see something new, but also make sure that you're working on the things that you need to work on. Before I left for that vacation for the Bahamas, I was struggling severely with my mental health. I had a bunch of problems, um, career-wise, financially, etc., whatever. So I went on this vacation. Um, it was all set. I didn't have to put any financial strain on myself, thankfully. But I went on this vacation. It was very hard to enjoy because one, I knew I still had those problems waiting for me when I came back home, and two, I felt like I needed to be working all the time. Whatever. Eventually, I got myself into the flow of like, let me just enjoy this vacation. I'm here. There's nothing I can do. I don't have access to the internet. I didn't bring my laptop. I didn't bring anything, and so I enjoyed the vacation. I had a great time. But once I came back home, bop, I got slapped in the face with my problems all over again. Why? Because I didn't address some of them before I left for vacation. And so everything, all the relaxation that I did in the last 4 days of my vacation was wiped out as soon as I came back home. Why? Because I didn't address some of those things before I left. I didn't have a plan for some of those things before I left. So all of that to say is when you're starting to develop a self-care plan for yourself, when you're starting to figure out like, what are the things that are going to help me take care of myself? I want to travel more. I want to go on vacation. I can afford to do them. Please only do it if you can afford to do it. I know sometimes we'd be a little delulu and we just be like, all right, let's just book this vacation and figure it out later. And I would be lying if I'm saying I'm not one of those people. But if you genuinely know you have no idea how you're going to be able to afford it months down the line, just wait, come up with a plan and figure out how you're going to do it later. But if I had the opportunity to go back and address those problems before I went on vacation, I would have started talking about them a bit more honestly, and I would have started putting things in place to know that when I come back, okay, I have a plan now, and yes, we are deep in the motherfucking trenches with this shit, absolutely. But when we come back, we have a plan in place, and we just execute the plan. We continue to work on it. I didn't do that before I left. And I kind of went on this vacation, ignored my problems until I came back and they had to face me like, what you gonna do about it now, girl? And so all of that to say is like, find things that are going to help you address the, to take care of yourself internally in terms of like your mental health, your emotions, etc. Find the things that you need to do for those things and do the external things. Go on the vacations, get your hair and your nails done, or if you're a man, get yourself that little lineup, that little fade, that little retwist, whatever it is. Do the physical and the internal as well. Do them intertwine them? Yes, intertwine them. Do them together. Because when you do one without the other, it can be a little hard. I feel like the internal one is the most important one for sure. You can do the internal and kind of like put the external on the back burner, but at some point you're going to be like, dang, okay, I'm feeling good on the inside, but I'm not looking fly on the outside. And I'm not saying like fly to the nines that you got to spend all your money, but it's just like feel good on the inside and look good. And I promise you'll see a huge difference in the way you walk about life. I started with the inside first, and now I'm working on the outside. And some of the things intertwine, like going to the gym works on the inside and the outside for me. And I can definitely say that there's a huge difference in how I look at life, which is why, like, while I'm going through the struggle season, I can acknowledge it and I can just be like, I'm just going to leave it in God's hands. I'm still going to do my part. I'm going to pray. I'm going to do all the things that I need to do, but I don't got to stress about it too much because I'm taking care of the inside and I'm doing my best to take care of the outside. Eating well is one of those things that it's just like, I'll do well for like 2 weeks and then I have that sugar addiction that really just like puts me in a chokehold body slam combo, and then I get out of that, and then, it's a cycle. We're still working on it, but you know what? The bottom line is, if you're like me, if you're like, I'm doing good 1 week and then I'm like, but then I make my way back, like, just keep working on it. Just keep working on it. At least you're putting the progress towards it, okay? You've addressed that you have the problem. You're working towards it. Start figuring out some plans that you're going to put in place to go, minimize the problem. Give yourself the grace. Give yourself the time. Give yourself your flowers for all the stuff that you're going through. at this time. So I just want to give you some quick things that I'm doing for self-care right now. My top 3 things. So number 1 is I'm resting. I'm going to sleep earlier if I can. I'm just laying down on my couch. I'm taking naps. Naps is one of those things where it's like hit or miss, because I'm one of those people that, like, I wake up from a nap, I got a headache, I feel nauseous, I just feel like I'm on a whole new planet, and it takes me a little bit of time to get back to earth. But that is one of those things where it's just like, overall, I'm just resting though. Like, the biggest thing is like making sure that I try to do as close to nothing as possible. As somebody who is very open about their anxiety, my brain feels like it never shuts off, in all honesty. Even when I go to bed, sometimes I feel like I don't get quality sleep because it is still thinking of things, it's still racing, it's still planning for things that we don't even need to be worried about right now. And so trying to rest and do as close to nothing as possible here, as close to nothing as possible, is very important for me. Number 2 is going to the gym and eating better foods. Going to the gym is the one place where my mind doesn't race at all, which is why it is very important for me to go to the gym, because I don't have to think about my retirement plan 30 years from now, or what my kids are going to have for dinner 15, 20 years from now. Who cares? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but the way my brain functions with this anxiety is definitely different. And so going to the gym is beneficial for me because I don't have to think about anything. It's just me, my music, the weights, and I go about my day and I go about my business, and then I'm calm when I leave, and then it takes a little bit of a while, but then my brain starts to like and goes right back to it. But at least I had that hour and a half to 2.5-ish hours. And honestly, I've been in there for like 2.5, 3 hours at the gym. But I'm not dragging it. Like, I'm really just taking my time. I'm really in there tearing up my muscles. But anyway, that's been something that's super beneficial for me on the inside and the outside. And I'm trying to eat better too. I know that I struggle with anxiety. I know that I have some other mental health issues that come and go. And for a while, I was really considering taking medication, and I'm kind of on the fence about that. Not to say that anybody who takes medication shouldn't. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not any of those things, and I'm not against medication for anybody. I'm just nervous about it for me. And that's something we could talk about another time, but I'm trying to stay as consistent with going to the gym and eating well as much as I can to see if I can get myself to a healthier balance without having to add medication to myself, because then I feel like I have to worry about a whole other host of problems. And so anyways, I've been adding the gym and eating better into my regimen, and I've definitely noticed that when I'm not eating as clean, I have a lot more issues with my mental health struggles, and I just feel like shit, in all honesty. And so, like, I try to eat as best as I can, and sometimes it might not even be like the cleanest things. Like I would be lying to you if I said I eat a salad every day of the week. It would be a stretch for me to say I eat a salad at least once a week sometimes, depending on the week. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But what I will say is that, like, even when I'm just cooking at home compared to eating somewhere else, I feel a lot better once I've eaten. I don't feel heavy. I don't feel disgustingly gross. I don't feel like there's nothing but oil in my body and all that extra stuff. So that's the other thing I've been doing. And the last thing, the love of my life, is driving and manifesting. Driving makes me anxious. And I know that this sounds like, girl, you just said that this is calming you down. It is. Driving makes me anxious. But driving on the back roads at a certain time of the day when there's not a lot of people out, I got a fire playlist going on, that brings me so much joy. And I like to drive to these areas. I'll be real with you, they're the white areas of where I live at. I live in a white area, but these are like the whiter areas of where I live at. I like to drive there, and they're rich places, in my opinion. And they have these huge, beautiful houses, and I like to drive in those areas, just look at the houses and manifest and picture myself building my dream home with my future husband and the family that I'm going to move in there with and all the other stuff. And I love doing that. I don't do that as often. I like to do that more in the summertime because the vibe is right, the sun is out. It's just something different. I still do it now, but not as much as I do in the summertime. But what I will say is I love doing that because it allows me to picture what my future is going to look like. It allows me to picture my future and think about my future in a happy and a positive way. And so I love doing that. And this is something that I have to do alone because I don't express my emotions very well, but I be crying sometimes and I get overwhelmed with emotion because it's just like, I know I'm going to get there. I know at some point I'm going to have the dream house that I want. I'm going to build the dream house. I'm going to have the husband and the kids and etc. And I just think about a lot of things. I just think about like where I started and where I grew up in that very small apartment in Connecticut and just like where I'm going to be and in the process, like where I'm at right now and just how far I've come from where I've started to where I'm at right now. And I just get emotional and I really just take the time to thank God because it's just like I'm going to get there and I know that you've placed this on my heart. You've placed me in this family to be the generational pattern breaker for a reason. It's not an easy path. It's not an easy journey by any means, but I'm very grateful for it. And something about driving and manifesting the type of house that I want and the type of house that I want to build really puts me in that space of gratitude. It puts me in that space of receiving, and it just really allows me to think about my future in a bright way instead of feeling like, oh, I have to hustle all the time and work all the time to get to where I want to be. Like sometimes like just picturing what you're working towards gives you more motivation, it gives you more purpose, and it gives you more reason. And so I love doing that. I love even just closing my eyes and picturing it if I don't feel like going out and drive because it's just like it reassures my why. It reassures me why I'm working so hard, why I'm pushing for these things. What is the end goal? And it's like it's not even just a selfish thing of like I want a big house. It's just like I joked a lot about like I grew up in a small apartment in the projects with no yard and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, like that stuff be kind of funny sometimes here and there. But when I drive through these houses and I look at them, it really makes me think about like I didn't realize how much I wanted these things. I didn't realize how much I wanted a house with a yard and how I wish I had a bigger house that I had grew up in. I didn't think about any of those things. And so I love doing these drives because they help me think about like what do I want to give to my future kids? What type of legacy do I want to build? I apologize for the little white noise in the background. My heat just suddenly turned on. But anyway, back to what I was doing. So, all in all, find a thing that's going to make you rest, take care of yourself, and picture your future in a more positive and healthy way. Just something that's going to allow you to slow down and take the time to enjoy life. Life is hard. Like, not even trying to be like dramatic or whatever the case may be. Life is hard. None of us really knows what the hell it is that we're doing. We're learning along the way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's also just like, remember, like, with all the hard work that you're doing, you're also supposed to be enjoying this life. And so find the things that are going to help you slow down, find the things that are going to help you enjoy your life more, spend more quality time with others, with yourself, whatever the case may be. Find those things and really take care of yourself, because in all seriousness, we don't know how long we're going to be on this planet for. We just assume that we're going to be on here for long, but we really don't know. And especially if you're a person of color, like, we already know we don't be living as long as white people. So keep that in mind. I just had to be real about that one. But we're going to go ahead and move into the affirmation for this week. And so the affirmation that I have for this week is, I am worthy of self-care. Self-care is not transactional, but it is necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that 3 times. If you have the ability or the capability to close your eyes, you can do so. If you're comfortable, if you want to write this down, however you want to speak this onto your life, find a way to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am worthy of self-care. Self-care is not transactional, but it is necessary. I am worthy of self-care. Self-care is not transactional, but it is necessary. I am worthy of self-care. Self-care is not transactional, but it is necessary. All right, y'all, that was pretty much all that I had for today. Let me know what your thoughts are. Again, the best way to get in touch with me about the podcast is through like the Instagram, the HSL Pod, TikTok, same thing, HSL Pod, or even the YouTube comments. I do my best to check those as much as possible at the Hood Soft Life podcast on YouTube. Let me know what your thoughts are about self-care in today's episode. If you grew up in the hood and you did learn about self-care in some way, shape, or form, like, let's talk about that, because in all seriousness, I don't feel like that's something that's being talked about a lot. So if you grew up in the hood and that was something that you were learning, like, let me know, because I want to figure out how we can build that message up for people who are still living in the hood, because that's something that I really think is important for us to learn as young as we possibly can. Also, two quick things. Number one, let me know what your thoughts are about having friends, guests, whatever you want to call it, on the podcast, to have more in-depth conversations about some of the topics that I talk about. I enjoy doing the podcast. I enjoy talking, but I also feel like if I was to have a deeper conversation with like some of my friends or some of my loved ones, whatever, I feel like that would be a lot more interesting to watch. So let me know, or listen to. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. The other thing is I have a little surprise dropping next Wednesday when the next episode comes out, so stay tuned for that. That'll be the 28th, Wednesday, February 28th, so right before the month ends. So just stay tuned for that. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. If you have any questions or concerns, drop a comment, and I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Bye.